Hello Stonites of grade 10. How are you all? I hope you are doing great. Yes. Today we will learn about a new chapter, okay? We will talk about our environment in this video. I'm very sure that in your previous grades, in your previous classes, you have learned about the word environment. It's not a very new to you. You have learned about everything which we are going to discuss today. You have learned all of these things in your previous grades. So this chapter is just a quick revision of all those things which you have learned in your previous grades. Okay, so let's start. Okay, let's start our topic. The first topic we are going to talk about is our environment. So if I ask you what is your environment, what would be your answer? Right, your answer will be the surrounding we live in, isn't it? Yes. So environment is the place, people, thing and the nature that surround and living organism. It is our basic life support system. It provides us the air we breathe in, food to eat, water to drink and the land to live in. It is a combination of the natural and human-made phenomena. Now see, the word environment is derived from a French word environ. It is derived from a French word which means everything that surrounds us. Everything that surrounds us. So you can just say that it is the totality of the surrounding conditions for comfortable living of living organisms. Now, this is just an introduction about environment, okay? So we have known that what is environment? It is the surrounding in which and living organisms live. Now we will talk about ecosystem. We will talk about ecosystems and its components. Don't get confused between the word environment and ecosystem. Environment is the surrounding in which living organisms live, whereas ecosystem is the interaction between the living and non-living components of an environment. Okay, now let's see what ecosystem consists of and what are its components. Okay, we will see ecosystem now and its components. See, all living organisms like humans, birds, plants, animals and microorganisms, what they do, and as well as the physical surrounding of the environment, okay? What they do, they interact with each other. They interact with each other in order to maintain a balance in nature. Isn't it? Yes. And this interacting organisms, that means the humans and the non-living organisms of an environment, they consist of the ecosystem. Okay? That means ecosystem consists of two components, that is the biotic comprising the living organisms and abiotic components comprising the physical conditions like temperature, land, soil, minerals, water, etc. etc. That means in a simple term, what you can say? You can say that ecosystem is a biological community. It's a biological community of living organisms or interacting organisms. And their physical environment. So it is what? It is the biological community of living or interacting organisms and their physical environment. So this is about biology, ecosystem, okay? So what we have, you have got the simple definition. Yes, the environment is the surrounding we live in and the ecosystem is the interaction between the living and the non-living components of an environment, okay? Now let's see what are the two types of ecosystem. There are two types of ecosystem, okay? The first is natural. Natural ecosystem. That means the ecosystem which exists on its own, okay? You take examples like forest, ocean, seas, rivers and all, etc. They are the natural. The next come here is the artificial. Artificial ecosystem, which are man-made or which are not natural. So artificial ecosystems can be examples like crop field, garden, aquarium and all. Okay. Now if you want to see an artificial ecosystem, you can just go and visit your own garden. Okay, you just go out there and you can see different plants and flowers. You will also find small insects, birds, frogs, you know, everything you'll find there. And these living organisms interact with non-living components of the environment. The non-living components will be like the rain, the soil, the water which you provide them. So these things, these components, they will interact among each other and they will form an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is what? Artificial ecosystem, that is the garden. So you can just go and visit your own garden for an example of artificial ecosystem, and you can see that how these things they interact, the growth and the reproduction, you know, how things takes place. So you can just go and get an example out of it. Okay. Now after the two types of ecosystem, let us see the components of ecosystem. Okay. Let us see the components of ecosystem. So this is ecosystem and it has two components. The first one is abiotic component. Abiotic component, and this is biotic component. Or in simple words you can say what? Non-living and living component. So non-living, as I have said, example can be like air, water, land, etc. And living can be animals, humans, etc. Okay. Now these abiotic are there. These biotic components are further divided. Okay. On the basis of nutrition, these biotic components are further divided into producers, consumers, and decomposers. Okay, the biotic components are further divided into producers, consumers, and decomposers. Now what are producers? They are what? They are all green plants and blue green algae which came. Producers are those who can make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. They have the ability to make their own food, so they are known as producers. They are also known as autotrophs. Okay, and they do not depend on other organisms for their food. They make their own food as they contain chlorophyll. So you can examples like blue-green algae and some bacteria and all green plants, they can make their own food. So they are the producers. They are what? Green plants and algae and bacteria. Those have chloroplasts. They can make their own food. They are known as the producers. So they are green plants and all. Then who are the consumers? The consumers are those animals which depend on the producers, who depend on the producers either directly or indirectly for their living. They prey on other organisms as they do not have the ability to make their own food. That's why they have to rely on the producers for their living. Okay. Now these consumers are also further subdivided into 4 groups. The consumers are also further divided into 4 subgroups. The first come here is the herbivores or herbivorous. Herbivores. So what are herbivores? Those are the plant eaters. Those animals which eat plants, or you can say the plant eaters. Example, deer, horse, goat, cow. Then again what? Herbivores. Then you can carnivores or carnivorous. Carnivores. That means flesh eater. They are also known as flesh eater. Example, tiger, deer, tiger, lion, etc. Isn't it? Carnivorous. Then you will also have omnivores. Another group is omnivores or omnivorous. That means as humans who eat both flesh and plants also. The animals who eat both plants and animals are known as the omnivores. So you can take examples like dog, cat, humans, etc. And the fourth group is the parasites. Okay, the fourth one is the parasites. The one who lives in the host body and take nutrition and food from the host body, isn't it? They live on the body of the host and take food from it. Example, lice. The very simple example is lice, cascata example. Okay, and many more are there. So these are the components of an ecosystem, and the biotic are divided into what? Producers, consumers, and decomposers. Further, the consumers are divided into 4 categories. They are herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and the parasites. Now, have you ever thought what happened to the dead and decaying body, or the decaying waste, isn't it? Waste. That means the dead and the decaying body of organisms are broken down into simple substances. They are complex organic substances, so they are broken down. They are acted upon by some bacteria and fungi, and they are broken down into simple substances, simple inorganic substances, isn't it? And who are those? They are the decomposers. Okay, they are the decomposers. The decomposers, what they do, they break down these complex molecules or these complex substances into simple inorganic substances which goes into the soil. Okay, and their main role is to help in the replenishment of natural resources. Okay, they help in the replenishment of natural resources, so they have a very great role to play in this ecosystem, as they are the one who clean up the dead, decaying bodies and all these things, and they also help in the creating a balance in the ecosystem as well as in the replenishment of the natural resources. So this is the division of biotic components. Okay, so this you can see this is a block. This is just an systematic diagram showing the different components of an ecosystem. So we can just revise that the ecosystem has 2 components, a biotic and biotic. The biotic is further divided into producers, consumers, and decomposers. The consumers is further divided into 4 groups. So this is the components of an ecosystem. Now, after the components of ecosystem, let us talk about food chain and food webs. As we are humans, we always need food to eat, isn't it? And this, even in an ecosystem and environment, there are chains, isn't it, of interconnected chains. So they are known as food chains and food webs. Now let us see and talk about them. Okay, food chain and food webs. So what is a food chain? It is a series of organisms. Okay, it is what? It is a series. It's a series of organisms. Okay, you know it's a series of organisms. Then what happens here? It's a series of organisms where one organism eats another. Okay, so it is a series of organisms where one organism eats another. Example, what example? Very simple one. Grass, deer, and then tiger. This is an example of food chain. So food chain is a series of organisms where one organism eats the another. It is also, you can also say that it's a sequence of events in an organism where one organism eats another organism, which is again eaten by another organism. Understood? That means deer eats grass, and then this deer is again eaten by tiger. So this is a food chain. Now in a food chain, okay, each step or level is known as a trophic level. Okay, trophic level. So let us draw a diagram which is in pyramid in shape. This is a pyramid in shape, isn't it? So what I say, each step and a level of a food chain is known as a trophic level. It's known as trophic level. And this figure, it shows the different trophic levels. At the very trophic level, there are producers. Okay. There are producers. Producers are the autotrophs, the green plants and all. Okay. The second is occupied by the primary consumers. The primary consumers. For the primary consumers, the herbivores. The herbivores are the primary consumers. They occupy the second step or the second level. Then the third level is the secondary consumers. They are the secondary consumers. Who are they? They are the carnivores. Okay? They are the carnivores. And the fourth trophic level is taken by tertiary consumers. Or you can say the large carnivores. So this is a diagram. This is a pyramidal figure of trophic levels. At the ground level or at the trophic level is ruled the producers, the one who fix the solar energy and then transfer it to the different trophic levels. Now the interaction among these components, okay, the interaction among these components also involve the flow of energy from one component of a system to the another. Okay, and then as I say, the second is taken up by whom? The primary consumers or the herbivores, and the secondary consumers and the carnivores, they take the third, and the fourth trophic level is taken by whom? The tertiary consumers or the large carnivores. Okay. Now what the producers do, what they do, they fix the solar energy, isn't it? And this energy is then transferred to the others also. From the producers, it goes to the herbivores or the heterotrophs and then to the consumers also. And this energy is needed for the life processes, okay, of the living world. So this is the systematic diagram. Now let's talk about the flow of energy, okay. Flow of energy in an ecosystem. The flow of energy in an ecosystem, it goes from the producers. Okay, it starts from the producers like this one. This is the flow of energy, okay, this diagram. This block diagram or a block representation of the energy flow. As I have said, what the interaction involves the flow of energy. So now let's see how energy flows in a food chain, okay. This figure is what? Flow of energy. Flow of energy in an ecosystem. Now what happens? You can say this as large carnivores, or you can also say top carnivores, that is us, the humans. Okay, we are always at the top and producers are at the ground level. Now what happened in this here? First of all, what happens? The green plants. Now this is the sunlight. So the green plants, what they do, they trap 1% of the energy of sunlight. Okay, when sunlight falls on the green plants, they trap the sunlight, they trap it, and then they convert it into the food energy. Okay, they convert it into the food energy for them. Then what happened next? They get their own food, isn't it? Then when these producers, okay, when these producers are what? When these producers are consumed by the primary consumers, what happened? A great amount of energy is lost into the environment. Okay, a great amount of energy is lost, and some amount of energy goes in work processes like digestion, doing work, energy. So what happens here, see, when the producers, what happens, as I say, the energy is transferred from one level to another, isn't it? So the producers, they make their own food. Now what happens when they herbivores or the primary, okay, when the primary consumers consume the plants, okay, what happened, or when the plants are eaten, a great amount of energy is lost, and some they are lost in doing their life activities. They are lost in life activities, and after all this thing, only 10%, okay, only 10% of energy is made available or is available to transfer to the next level, which is also known as the 10% law. Okay, it is also known as the 10% law, which says that after in each or every topic level, only 10% of the energy is available to transfer it to the next level, and 90%, the remaining 90% is used in doing those life activities or life processes. Okay, since there is a decrease or there is a gradual decrease of energy in each topic level, that's why the food chain has 3 to 4 topic levels. The previous diagram, isn't it? In the previous diagram there was a pyramid which has 4 topic levels. Since there is a loss of energy at each level, that's why the food chain has 3 to 4 topic levels. Okay. So this is the flow of energy or the energy flow diagram. From this energy flow diagram, you have to know 2 things. The first is that the flow of energy is unidirectional. Okay. Flow of energy is unidirectional. It does not have any direction. It does not have any direction. As the energy goes progressively, one after the another. That means the energy cannot come back to the producers. For example, if the energy goes from the producers to the primary consumers or the herbivores, that means the energy does not come back to the producers again. It just goes progressively. Okay. So this is one note we can make from the food chain. Another one is that at each topic level, what happened? Energy gets diminished. Okay, energy gets diminished. At each topic level, what happened? The energy gets diminished because why? Because at each topic level there is loss of energy. Every topic level there will be loss of energy. Okay. So this is food chain and how energy flows in a food chain. Okay. Now see, the length and the complexity of a food chain, they vary differently. And in a food chain, sometimes what happens, one organism is eaten by many other organisms, and sometimes it's we cannot represent it by a single chain straight line. Okay, we cannot represent it by what? We cannot represent it by a straight line or a single food chain. That means this representation can be shown by a number of interconnected chains which forms the food web. Which forms the food web. In nature, food web is what? It is a large number of food chains interconnected together, or it is a large number of interconnected food chains. Okay, what is that? It is a large number of interconnected food chains. The large numbers of interconnected food chain. Okay, so this is all we have talked about food chains and food webs. Now in this food chains and food web, you will also come to know about one topic, that is biological magnification. Okay, biological magnification. So let us see what is biological magnification. See, interestingly what happens, unknowingly what happens, every time some harmful chemicals get inside our body. Okay, we don't know how it gets into it, but unknowingly there are sometimes what happens, many harmful chemicals, they enter our body. How? How you can say is like just the use of, for example, you take the use of pesticides or insecticides which are used by the farmers, isn't it, to grow their crops or to protect them from the insects. What happened to those? They are sprayed, but what happens? They are either washed off by the rainwater into the rivers or they remain into the crops. And then what happened? When they are washed off to the rivers, they are taken up by the aquatic living organisms and we consume them. And when they remain into the crops, we directly consume them, isn't it? That means this is how these chemical substances enter our body. Or you can say how these chemical substances enter the food chain. They insert or they come inside the food chain. This is how they come inside the food chain, isn't it? Now what happens? Out of these chemical substances, some chemicals are even non-biodegradable. Isn't it? They cannot be broken down by some enzymes and bacteria inside our body and they remain as it is for a long time and create harmful, which becomes very harmful for health also and for the other members of the ecosystem, isn't it? That process is called the biological magnification. That process is known what? Biological magnification. What is biological magnification? It is the increase in the concentration of toxic substances in the body of living organisms at each trophic level of a food chain. Okay? And how it happens? As I have said, through the usage of pesticides and insecticides in the crops. You can causes like you can take like agriculture. The causes are like agriculture, mining, industrial activities, etc., etc. All these things, what happens? They use lots and lots of chemical substances which are either released into the water bodies or they goes to the like agriculture and all. We directly eat them or we get them through the water bodies and all. And what happens to these waste products? They get what? Accumulated at each topic level. Okay. At each topic level of food chain, these waste materials, they do not get decomposed and they get accumulated, and this increase, okay, the increase in the level of the toxic substances at each topic level is known as the biological magnification. So in simple words, what do you say? It is the increase in the toxic substances in the human body or any living organisms at each topic level of a food chain. Okay. So we have seen food chains and webs, and we have also talked about biological magnification. Now let's see about the environmental problems. As we were talking about environment and ecosystem, so now let's see about the problems of environment. So environmental problems. As we are progressing, our lifestyles are changing and our activities are also affecting our environment in a number of ways. And there are many environmental problems like the global warming, deforestation, uneven climatic conditions and all, etc. They are all the results, the effects of human activities on the environment, isn't it? So there are lots of problems, but in this chapter we will talk about only two problems. That is, we will talk about the ozone depletion or depletion of the ozone layer. Ozone depletion. Okay, we will talk about that. Now, what is ozone layer? Ozone. Ozone is O3. Ozone is O3. And it is a protective layer against the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, this is Earth and this is the atmosphere. So this is here ozone layer. So ozone layer, what it is? It is a protective layer. Okay, it's a protective layer around the Earth atmosphere, which protect us from the sun's harmful radiations or the ultraviolet radiations and protect us from the harmful health hazards like the skin cancer, radiation and all. So this ozone layer, what it does, it is a, you can just take it as a protective blanket around the earth crust, which protect all the organisms from the harmful radiation of the sun. Okay. Now what happened to it? Ozone depletion. Now how ozone is formed? Okay, see, ozone is present at the higher level of the atmosphere. It is present at the stratosphere. It is present in the stratosphere level of the atmosphere, and it is a poisonous gas at the ground level. Okay, it is a poisonous gas at the ground level. See, it's a poisonous gas at the ground level, but it is as a protective layer in the upper level, isn't it? Now let's see how this ozone layer is formed, or ozone molecule is formed. It is a molecule, 3 oxygen atom molecule. Okay, this ozone. Now how it is formed? What happens? The UV radiations, no? The UV radiations which come from the sun, they break the atmospheric oxygen. They break the atmospheric oxygen into free atoms. Okay, they break the atmospheric oxygen into free atoms, and when these free atoms combine with the atmospheric atom again, they form the ozone, O3. They form ozone molecule, O3. Okay. Now what is ozone layer depletion? What is ozone layer depletion? It is the decrease in the thickness of the ozone layer. Okay, it's a decrease in the thickness of the ozone layer, and this first time the ozone layer was decrease in the ozone layer was observed in 1985 over Antarctica. Over Antarctica, the first time observed this depletion in the thickness of ozone layer, which was known as the ozone hole. Okay, ozone hole. And this decrease was associated. Why there was a decrease, or why it happened? So this process was associated with the use of excessive use of synthetic chemicals, which is known as the CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. They are the main reason, or they are the main cause of the depletion of ozone layer. Okay, the use of chlorofluorocarbons, which were used in refrigerators, fire extinguishers, ACs and cars and all those things. Okay, so these were the why, because of the excessive use of these chemical substances, or these synthetic chemical substances. Now in 1986, what happened? In 1986, UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, what they do, they succeeded in making a protocol. Okay, they succeeded in making an agreement or a protocol to stop the use of CFCs in refrigerators or ACs and all. Okay, they succeeded in stopping the usage of, or in the manufacturing of CFCs chemicals, that's chlorofluorocarbon. Okay, and then they succeeded that it was made mandatory that all the companies should manufacture all these kinds of appliances without the use of these chemical substances. Okay, this is the reason why there was a decrease in the thickness of the ozone layer, which means the ozone hole. Okay, so this is what is ozone and how ozone depletion is taking place. Now let us talk another environmental problem, that is waste disposal. Another big issue or a great problem in our environment is the waste disposal. In our everyday life, we do so many activities which produces a lot of materials, waste materials and waste products, isn't it? So let's talk about them today. Now, this waste, what are two types of waste produced? You know that? The two types of waste which are produced are what? Biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So, the waste which are produced from all our everyday life activities are categorized into two groups. What are they? Biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Isn't it? See, the human-made materials like plastics and all, they are broken down by some bacteria and fungi, as I have said, the decomposer, isn't it? And when they are not done by those, they are affected upon by the physical conditions. And when they are not acted upon by all these things, they remain in the environment for a longer time, causing harmful effects on the members of the ecosystem. On those bases, they are differentiated into two types, that is biodegradable and non-biodegradable. The first point in biodegradable is they are what? They can be decomposed. The substances which can be decomposed by the action of microorganisms are known as biodegradable. What? They can be decomposed. They can be decomposed by the action of microbes. You can take example like paper, vegetable waste, wood, etc. So it is the opposite of biodegradable, so they cannot be decomposed. So you can just say that they cannot be decomposed. Example: glass, plastic, synthetic fibers, etc. Okay. Second point, you can say that they change their shape over period of time. They what? They change. Okay, they change their shape over period of time, and what happens to them? They remain same as it is. They do not change. Okay, and then they what happen? They become harmless. Okay, they become harmless over time. And what happened to them? They become harmful. Okay, instead of becoming harmless, they become harmful. And the last point, to differentiate them, you can say that they do not pollute. Okay, the biodegradable, what happened? They do not pollute, and in the other hand side, what happens? They pollute the environment. Okay, so these are differences between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. Biodegradable waste, the substances which can be decomposed by the action of microorganisms, are the biodegradable waste. Example: vegetable, paper, wood, etc. Non-biodegradable, they cannot be decomposed. Examples like plastic, synthetic fibers, glass and all. And what happened to them? Over time, they change their shape and become harmless. Okay. And what happened to them? They remain same as it is. As long as you keep them, they will remain the same and they will become harmful day after day. And what happened? They do not pollute, whereas they pollute the environment. So there are the two types of garbage or waste. These waste material or waste substances, they are biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Okay. Now let's see what or you can do to methods of waste disposal. Okay. Now let us talk about some methods how we can dispose these waste materials so that we do not pollute our environment. The first you can is the biogas plant. Method 1 is what? Biogas plant. So there in biogas plants, what happens? The vegetable waste or organic substances, they are turned into manure or biogas, which can be used as a fertilizers for the plants also, isn't it? The next, what you can do, you can recycle or recycling. Recycling or reuse. Like solid waste, we can use the waste papers, the newspapers, we can reuse them, or we see so many videos and news that from the waste products, so many things can be made out, creative things, isn't it? So recycle. We should think of recycling small things at our home also. And then the next you can do is composting. Composting, which is a very good way, to manage this biodegradable waste, and you can even do this at your home also. When you can collect a lot of waste at home, what you can do, you can just dug out a small place and put all the waste out there and then cover it with the soil, and after a few months, what you can see that those waste materials have turned into manure, and you can plant vegetables and other plants also out there, isn't it? So composting is a very simple and a very effective way of waste disposal. Another one you can talk about is sewage treatment plant. Okay, sewage treatment plant. So these plants are these plants are established, or they are manufactured, or they are produced by the governments. What happen, where the drainage water, okay, the drain water are cleaned or passed through this treatment plant so that no harmful chemicals reaches the river water. Once they are cleaned up, the water in that plant, then they can be allowed to flow into the river. And another thing you can do is the landfills or landfilling. This is another way of waste management or waste disposal, landfilling. So they are done on a large scale. The waste products are buried in low-lying areas. They are buried in low-lying areas and they are compacted by rolling bulldozers over them. Okay, so they are done on a large area. So there are some of the few points or the methods by which waste disposal can be done in a very effective manner without harming the environment. Okay, so these are the points. With this, we came to the end of this topic or of this chapter. Now, as an individual, what we can do to save our environment? We can include the 3 R's, okay? The 3 R's approach in our daily life usage or in our daily life activities. That is the reduce, reuse, and recycle. We should always try to reduce the usage of the resources. Okay, for example, like when the fan and the light are not on use, you can just put them off instead of just leaving them like that, isn't it? So reduce and reuse. You can reuse the things which are available at home to make a new thing, isn't it? And the recycle, you can make so many products out of the waste. And we see when you go through videos on the social medias, on WhatsApp, you can see that people make so many things out of the waste products. So these are the creative ways where you can save the environment from all those environmental problems. So try to involve these 3 R's in our life so that we as an individual or as a human, we can support or we can put an effort in making our environment a pollution-free environment. Okay. So with these things, we have come to the end of this chapter where we have talked about environment and our ecosystem, and also we have talked about our environmental problems. Let's just quickly go through a quick summary of this chapter. So we have come to the end of the chapter. So let's just quickly go through the topics which we have learned in this chapter. The first thing you have learned about the environment, the surrounding in which a living organism live. The ecosystem is what? The interaction between the living and the non-living components of an environment. Then we have also seen its components, isn't it? Its components we have seen what are the biotic and the abiotic components. The biotic components were further divided into producers, consumers and decomposers. And the consumers were further divided into herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and the parasites. Then we have seen the food chains and the food webs. The chain in which one organism eats another organisms. And interconnected food chains forms food webs. And then we have seen how energy flow in a food chains take place. How energy is transported or is given out from one level to the next. Then we have talked about the environmental problems where we have talked about the ozone layer depletion. How and when it was and what actually ozone layer depletion is. Then lastly we have also talked about the biodegradable and the non-biodegradable waste. The substances which are broken down by the microorganisms are the biodegradable and the substances which are not broken down are the non-biodegradable waste. And lastly we have also learned about the methods of waste disposal. What could be the methods of waste disposal like the sewage treatment plant, landfillings, recycling and reusing. So with these we have come to the end of the chapter and to the end of this video also. With this, take care and thank you, and with this you can go through the PDF files which will be uploaded along with the video and do your work. Thank you.